Now I've undid that last house 1 program that ran those 5x5 layers because we ran out of inventory. So we need a way to check and see how many blocks are left in my current slot before it switches to the next set of blocks. So I'm going to fill these up with a bunch of birchwood planks and fill up maybe the first 4 or 5 slots. But when we run the program, we need a way to get it to move to the next slot when it's out. I just went and got some in my inventory, and then I can shift click to throw those over there. So now he's got plenty of things, but he will go down to 0 here and not go to the second slot unless I explicitly tell him to. So this starts to expose one of the problems with using a lot of drag and drop, manually doing it, because we don't know after which block here, without doing some serious math, when he's going to exactly run out. Okay, it's not that serious a math, but if it was a bigger house, it'd be serious math. So we're going to make a new disk, and we're going to have him check his inventory. So I'm going to call this inventory inv switch 2 because I've built one of these before. And we're going to introduce variables. Woo! Actually, not exactly in this part. We're going to introduce if statements, actually. So he should only switch if his current slot is at 0 or less than 1, per se. So if item count in whatever slot he's currently in, which it defaults to 1, so if his item count, and it's red because it's expecting something else here, says required there, if that is less than what? Well, it's going to be a number, so we're going to click, no, it's not always 42. You put a number, so less than 1, okay? If it's less than 1, what should it do? Well, then it should, and I'm going to go to the next line here, it should select a different slot. Which slot should it choose? Well, it would then go to slot 2 because we're pretending slot 1 is empty, then it should go to slot 2. And then after that, we need, it's got a red thing down here, and we could just say end. So whenever slot 1 is empty, it moves on to slot 2. And this will work, and he'll probably build our house. But some of you will want to build much bigger mansions. And so you're going to use even more than 2 slots. So if you're only going to use, 128 blocks, which he would have in the first 2 slots, you could end your inventory switch right there. But I'm going to keep going, assuming that you may use slots 3 and 4 too. So what we're going to do is nest one of these inside of another one. So if slot 1, where it defaults to, is less than 1, switch to slot 2. And before we end that, we're going to ask it another question and say, well, yeah, but if that slot, whatever slot you're on at that point in the program, and keep in mind it is now at slot 2 because if slot 1 was empty, it went to slot 2, and then it's happy. But if that slot is less than 1, then what should it do? Then, and I'm going to hit hover here and just hit the enter key because I need to knock down that line again. Then it should, actually I'm going to space these over. This is good programming if you are going to be doing this, is to indent these if statements. But if that is less than 1, then we should switch to slot 3. And then don't forget, since we have one, every if needs its own end. So this if matches up with that end. This if will match up with an end here, but I need to knock this one down again and leave myself room here. Here, I'll put an end there and use this one here. I like to match them up indentation wise, so I know this if is checking that and ending here, and this if is checking that slot and switching to the slot 3, and then it ends that. Now it will use all 3, but again, we may need more. So we knock that down a few, and we say, yes, but if slot 3 is empty, we would say if the item count of that slot is less than 1, then switch to slot number 4. And now we can end this one. I'm going to knock this guy down, and you could just drag it from over here too if it doesn't like where you're dragging, or doesn't want you to put it there. So now this if is ended here, this if is ended here, and this if is ended here. It gets really messy if you have all of these kind of backed up and things like that. It just doesn't look very good. So try to keep them organized. And this way it'll check for the first available block by checking slot 1. If that's empty, go to slot 2. And if that's empty, go to slot 3. And if that's empty, go to slot 4. And it will use all of these through slot 4. And you can repeat that pattern and use all of your inventory slots all the way through 16, whatever 16 times 64 is. Then you could use that many blocks, which is a lot. Now, just because we program this inventory switch doesn't mean it's going to use it unless we tell it to use this inventory switch. So let's go look back at our house. If we were to, and I'll knock this down and that one down and that one down and that down. I'm hitting enter by hovering there. And now we just have all of our layer 5x5s. If I just do this, run program inventory switch 2. So I run that entire layer, then run the switch, then run the entire next layer, and then run the switch. That is going to be a problem because it only checks to see if the current slot is less than 1 after it completes the entire layer. So it'll try all of these placing the blocks before it ever even thinks about checking the inventory. And what if you run out in the middle of one of these layers? That's not good. So I'm going to hover here and hit the backspace and backspace. So all I have is the layer 5x5s. This is where it would have been better to use some repeat blocks or if-then blocks or while blocks, which I'll get to in the next lesson, in the middle of these. Or if you wanted to, you could, grabbed a block. If you wanted to, you could say, okay, check before every block you place, check the inventory, because that's what that program's going to do. Before it tries to do anything, it's going to check and see if you have blocks and go to a slot that does have inventory, then place it. Move forward. And this could get kind of tedious, and I'll do it because oh, I'm going to have to knock these down. Oh, this is going to be annoying. Yeah. Inventory switch. This is definitely not ideal. It will work. So before I ever try to place anything, it's always going to be checking, do you have any blocks left? So space that one over, switch, space that one over, check for blocks. I have to knock that one down. See, now it's just getting ugly. Alright, fine. Inventory switch, inventory switch. And again, all it's doing here is checking to see if there's any blocks in the current slot, and jumps to the next slot if it needs to. This is just ugly looking. It kind of bothers me. But until we get a repeat block made, this is what we'll have to do. Put in that. And finally, okay, so now before it ever places any block, it's going to see if you have blocks in there. Now, it's go to our house 1. So it'll run layer 5x5, then this, then this, and this, and this, and it will work because every single block before it places it, it runs our inventory switch. So let's see if that works by running house 1. And let's see what he's doing a little bit on the back end here. Running layer 5x5. I'm going to have to look to the side to see. Gosh darn. There we go. He's running the second set of blocks. See how our inventory is going. So he hasn't needed that second slot yet, but he is checking before he places any of these blocks. Oh, he's getting low. This is going to be the true test, is when that hits less than 1, will it jump to the next slot? Whoa, he kind of glitched out there for a second. He keeps going back to his old look. Whew. He jumped to the next slot, and he is going on nicely. And he's going to finish his entire thing, hopefully. Let's go Sertle. Hey, he did it! Now that we're here, we need to have him first fill in these blocks with birch, which I'll probably manually program. Have him go forward, turn right, forward, and then start placing in this kind of 3x3 grid area and fill in the middle. And then we'll position him to do this final top here. Let's try that in the next lesson.